always been this huge mystery to me. I think a lot of people have fathers who are kind of enigmas and question marks, who don't reveal a lot about themselves. I knew that he had had quite a painful childhood. Born in Palestine, grew up in Israel, and fought in the IDF, and kind of grew up with a lot of Holocaust survivors, very sick, and around him, but that was really all I knew. But there was so much, pain in kind of the way that he reacts to things in life, and as I was saying, I find his rage and his movement extremely cinematic. And so when I had this camera, I wasn't supposed to film him for school. I actually that summer went to Poland to shoot something else, but I needed to practice, and I started to practice on him, and so there was the kind of cinematic nature of his body, his movement, and also filming that was kind of this real affinity, and was a way for me to get closer, for an excuse to spend more time, and also to ask questions that I'd never asked him before, and also made him want to tell me to perform for the camera, which I think is a lot of times construed as a bad thing in documentary, or at least historically, not so much anymore. But that effect that the presence of the camera had was actually very revealing, and kind of pulled information out of him, and yeah.
Would you ever, I feel like I might already know the answer, but would you ever want to work with him again for a future?
I was because I think a lot of people think of it insane for working with him for as long as I did, which was almost 3 years, because it was very difficult. I would shoot with him, which was hard. It was hard to deal with. To be up close with his anger that much. But then I would kind of go back to school, and I would pore over the footage and still be in my home when I was, in Cambridge, Massachusetts. So mentally, I don't think it would be therapeutically recommended to anyone, this way of kind of confronting your family and your childhood. But I'm thinking about it now, I could do that again. Yeah, totally. I think that he's endlessly fascinating to me. And I feel close to him when I'm filming him. Yeah. I think making the film ultimately is therapeutic, and to be honest, having it show and having people talk to me about it, like you are, and in the Q&A, is more therapeutic than the process was. But I couldn't run away from thinking about, these things, and maybe the ways that I've been shaped by my family dynamics, and maybe have inherited some rage or trauma. There wasn't that much forethought, because I was shooting a lot of it as cinema verite observational style of shooting, so it was very on the fly. But I would say the process was very long, as I've said, and by the second year, I knew where I had to be, and I knew what I wanted the shot to feel like, so it kind of allowed me to get more specific, and to know on this phone call, I just want the mouth, and I want the mouth for a long time, and on the screen it'll feel really big, and maybe it'll transform into something else, the longer you watch it. Same goes with the skin and filming close to the skin. And And then I think I wanted a lot of contrast of scale to really play with that potential in cinema. So to be really far from things that are massive, like the fires, and to be very close to things that are very small, like the tadpoles, kind of this micro and macro play and oscillation. What you're saying reminds me of something that's written by a scholar and filmmaker, David McDougall, in this amazing book called Transcultural Cinema, from which I took the title, Declarations of Love. Declarations of Love is not the title of the book, but he says in it, many films are declarations of love if we could but see it. This process was very much, and finishing it was about laying something to rest, kind of spiritually and mentally. So I think I'm more inclined not really to see it as a film or work in progress anymore, but just something that I confronted and thought a lot about and dealt with for a few years and have become at peace with. So I think I see it in that way.